identifying your keywords from your research question or your topic, and then deciding whether there are any synonyms or related terms that you can add to them. So that's kind of the first stage of identifying, scoping your project. The second stage is planning. So there's lots of different types of information, as you know, and it's deciding which ones you need for your research. So is it primary data, or is it secondary sources such as books or journals, or is it more specialist material? Is it government statistics? Is it maps, images? What do you need? Because that affects where you look, and different resources are better for looking for different types of information. The third step is, once you've done that, is to start gathering your information. And then you'll need to develop search strategies. You'll be using something called Boolean operators, which is a fancy term for the little connectors between words called and, or not. You'll be looking at how you limit your searches and kind of refining your searches as you go along. And then once you've gathered the information, it'll be looking at how you evaluate your results. Is anything that you found actually relevant? Is it useful? Can you trust it? Is it biased anyway? And it may be at this stage that you have to go all the way back to the beginning and rethink your kind of keywords, related terms, or look where you're looking, which databases you're using, and you might have to go back. And then lastly, you need to manage your information well. So keep a record of everything you find, and then cite and reference fully when writing up. I mean, it's not the most thrilling of topics, but if you get this right, it saves you so much, so much time in the long run. It means that you've got time to do other things in a more effective way. There's a great video that the University of York have put together, and it just kind of introduces you to these topics. Hopefully the sound's going to work. We're not going to get some random other videos playing underneath.
This video aims to demonstrate how to create a search strategy and why doing so is useful. When you are searching for information, you may find too many results. The results you find may be too broad, or they may not be relevant to the subject you are researching. This video will show you how to get better results more efficiently. Kirsty has an essay to write on the biological effects of climate change in Britain. She starts by creating a mind map or search plan of her keywords and all their related terms. This will help Kirsty find relevant publications, even if the publication authors use different terms to her essay title. First, consider the keywords that sum up your research title. Kirsty identifies the keywords biological, climate change and Britain. Then consider alternate terms with the same meaning. These terms are often referred to as synonyms. Kirsty identifies the alternate terms organic, global warming and UK. Adding additional words may give more context or focus to your search. Kirsty identifies the additional word Yorkshire to focus her search. Kirsty also creates a search strategy to help her carry out her research. This strategy will help her to search all relevant resources. By grouping synonyms or similar words together, Kirsty can do a quick and efficient search. A search that will cast the net wide enough to find all useful information, while also cutting down on the number of irrelevant results. The word or is used to group together the synonyms, the alternate terms with the same meaning. The word and is used to connect the themes together, to create a combination of the terms we are interested in. The word not is used to exclude terms. You can also use symbols, such as the asterisk, to pick up different word endings. This is called truncation. Sometimes different databases use different symbols to truncate a word. so remember to check the help section of the database you are using. You can see an ideal search using the terms we have identified in our search plan. We have seen that planning a search and mapping our keywords and synonyms can help expand your search beyond the original essay title to find more valuable, relevant information.
I hope that was helpful in kind of outlining what we're going to be going through. And I'm just going to go and expand on some of the points that she made. So here's a kind of a research topic there at the top, the environmental impact of terrorism at sea. So the first thing to do in this situation is actually to break down your keywords. So we've picked out there, environmental impact, terrorism at sea, so the ones in colour there at the top. And then start to think about, well, actually, what are related terms, what are synonyms for these words? And you may know them off the top of your head already. Brilliant. You might need to go and have a look at an online thesaurus to see if there's any other words that might be applicable. And it might be just chatting to other guys on the course or who you're studying with, just to see if you can break that down a bit more. I just listed some of the possibilities, some of the related terms or synonyms underneath each of them. So that just helps you at that first stage of kind of working out, how can I broaden my search, and as they said on the video, make it more relevant and more valuable as well. Other things to think about alternate spellings. Obviously Americanisms are going to affect what things pull up. Database and catalogues are not like Google. Sometimes they're getting more responsive and saying, did you mean this? But they don't do that naturally, so you have to be one step ahead of them. You need to think, is there any possible other spellings for this? And if there is, include them in your search. We've got an example of behaviour and behaviour up there without the U. And then they mentioned in the video a bit about the truncation already. So an example here would be environment with an asterisk at the end would find environment, environments, and environmental. So you need to think about the roots of your word, and if there are any other words that come off it that those publishers or those authors of those articles or books may have used, so you can retrieve everything that's relevant to your search. What it didn't mention in the video, didn't touch on very much, is identifying information sources. We mentioned briefly at the beginning that there are lots of different information sources out there. They may or may not be applicable or useful to your research, and only you will be able to decide that and look at that. So there's a range of sources up there, from books to journal articles, conference proceedings, theses, maps, government reports, and you need to start and think through the benefits of using these different sources and whether it's applicable or not. So some examples up there. What are books good for? Well, they're good for a general overview, and obviously you get lots of core textbooks in book format. Journal articles are often very specific. They've got original research in, and they're what we call peer-reviewed, some of them. Not all of them, but some of them are peer-reviewed, which means they've just been reviewed by other experts in the field and verified, and almost like giving them a stamp of authority to say these are trustworthy. Websites are another kettle of fish. They may be useful for you for a specific type of research, but they're often unregulated and biased, so you need to bear that in mind. And obviously the authorship changes, whether it's a company, an organisation or an individual. And obviously there's lots of different types of specialist information as well that you can access. You might need statistics, you might need data. So it's just starting to think through those different types of sources, and that will affect where you search next. The third stage is gathering information. So once you've got your keywords, your related terms, you've thought a bit about truncation a bit, and decided what kind of sources you need to start building your search techniques up. I don't know if you've ever come across quotation marks, so degradation and service there with quotation marks. What that means is when you put that into Google, put that into a database, most databases, and catalogue, it's going to look for the phrase. If you don't put those quotation marks around it, it's going to look for the individual words, and therefore you're going to get a huge response of results, and it might not be relevant. You're wanting to look for a phrase, so top tip, if you remember nothing from today, is definitely put things in quotation marks. At this stage, you need to use those what we call Boolean operators. You might have heard those before. those and, or not to make logical connections between your keywords. So you might put degradation and service and pipeline you might want to search for. Or you might have done your kind of keywords and related terms. You think, well, it could be corrosion as well. So you can see we've got it in brackets, or corrosion and pipeline. Lots of advanced search features on the databases, on library search, do that for you. You don't necessarily have to put in and or, but it's useful to know what they do and how they broaden or expand your research. And we've already talked a bit about truncation at this point as well. So library search, you know, if you're third year, hopefully you'll have used this before. If you're a new master's student, you may not even touched on it yet. So bear with me if you have used it before, and hopefully you might learn something new. Library search is our main point of access into our holdings as a library, so ebooks and books. It's a great place to start to find printer books in the library, to find electronic books, and just to get a general overview of the literature, and also to find, you know, a few journal articles for an essay. It's not the only place to look, so what I'd say is probably start with library search, and then decide to where you're going to go next, whether it's a specialist database, which one, or an ebook collection, and we'll touch on that a bit later. I just want to show you now what library search looks like. So this is the library's main page, and you can access library search there on your screens. It's also mobile friendly, so if you're on your mobile phone you can do that, and if you've got the university app, you can link through the app to library search. You can reserve things and do things online that way as well. So there's lots of ways to access it. It's got one main search box here, but as I was talking about, there is an advanced search if you want to go down that route, and you'll see already, you'll see your Boolean operators down the side there, your ands and your ors and your nots. I'm just going to stick with the plain simple search at the moment. I'm just going to put degradation and service in brackets. I'm leaving it set to everything except articles, which means it's going to bring me back books and ebooks. I'll change it in a minute to bring back journal articles. I'm just going to do a search there. And obviously I've only got 2 results, and by the looks of it, it looks like they're probably the same book, maybe slightly different editions. It should tell you on the left hand side what it is. So this is a book. One thing you might want to do is log in there at the top. And you click log in, it'll ask for your password and your university login. And what happens here is it creates your own personal space. It now recognises me at the top. And say if I thought, oh, that's a really good book, I want to come back to that, I just click on the star next to it. It should have added to my e-shelf, so you have an e-shelf, and it should have popped up down there, and it has. You can create folders in there, so if you're doing a specific module or topic, then you can create books or journal articles that you want to come back to. You can also save queries, so if you've come up with a really good search strategy and it's taken you ages, you can actually save it and come back to it, and Julia's going to touch on that a bit tomorrow with you. I'll just go back to the main screen. Well, obviously 2 results are not great. So let's try and see, well, I need to broaden the search. I'm going to click everything. I'm going to see what comes up there. And now I'm up to 1,258 results. So you can see immediately most of the research around this is in journal format. It's not in books and it's not in ebooks. You could say, well, at this stage, I'm going to put pipeline in there as well. So you could write pipeline in there and pipeline, or you could go into the advanced search and put it in and click search. And that's taken me down again, so that hasn't really worked very well. We go back to what we said before. We're going to put or corrosion in and see what happens. And now we've got too many. We've got 4,123 results there at the top. So you can see by including those and or ors, you can reduce it, you can increase it, and you can also limit your search by, down the left hand side there's a menu of different ways of refining your results. So you might decide, oh actually I only want research or results from the last kind of 6 years. I'm going to click refine. I don't want older research. And now that's taken me down to 2,000. So I've cut 2,000 off my results straight away just by doing that one simple thing. I might decide, well, actually, I just want peer-reviewed journals. I only want trusted sources that are going to come back to me. And again, that's broken it down there to 1,300. You can bring it down by subject, or if there's a particular author, a particular journal that you're interested in. And, you know, if it was an international subject with lots of different publications in different languages, depending on your skill set and what you can understand, if you speak different language, you might want to click English there. So you can see very quickly how we've brought things down and broadened things up there for it as well. We'll go back to library search. So if you ever want to navigate back, you just click on library search there and it'll bring you back to that main screen. Within here, you can also access ebooks, and most of the ebooks should pop up on our library catalogue. Not all of them, but some of them will come up there. Some ebooks we buy outright, so the lecturers say, actually, this is something that we definitely need, the students need access to. Some books we have a policy where we have a pot of money, which is there for you to say, actually, we need this ebook. So you might see it appear on the library catalogue, but when you go through to it, you might only be able to read it for 5 minutes. If you see something like that, it means that we haven't bought it yet, but we can borrow it for you. And I'll show you that in a minute. If lots of people say, actually, we want to borrow this ebook for a week, we then are notified, and it means that actually we probably need to buy this as a permanent part of our collection. So it kind of puts the power back in your hands, because at the end of the day, you know what you need. It might be for a specific topic or research as well. So I'll just show you what one of those looks like, just in case you come across it and just are not sure what it means. So you can see there's 2 versions of it. There's actually a book version, but there's an ebook version as well. So click view online and then view full text. And do you see at the left hand side it says there you can only browse this for 5 minutes? So if you want to, you could read it and say, actually, you know, look at it for the 5 minutes. Is this going to be any use at all? And you can look at chapters or certain pages. If you decide yes it is, you could just click request access, and then you just put your details in, your first name, your last name, email address, library card number, and comments. Why do you need it? Is it for a particular module? Is it for some research that you're doing? People panic about this, so sometimes it says £150 thing. I'm not pressing request that's going to go onto my library card or onto my university account. Ignore that. That's what we pay for you to be able to read it for a week. Does that make sense? So just don't panic. I think lots of people get put off by that and think, oh, I'm not going to press OK for that. So it's just another, in case, sometimes you'll go straight through and you'll be able to read it. Those are the ones we've bought. But if you'd like us to borrow it for you, just click request, and then it'll get emailed to you, and then it'll tell you how long you've got it for. It's normally 7 days access. So that's the library search. If you go back to the Newcastle University library page, on here you may have used it already, so apologies if you have, but on the subject support, under subject support, we have created a guide which is specifically tailored to you and your subject. So there's a marine science and technology one that's situated there. You may be interested in other ones. You may, for instance, be interested in our sustainability guide, which is down at the bottom. The sustainability guide has been put together by students and academics as well as library staff. So it's very current and there's lots of useful information there. The marine science, if you click on this, this is where you need to go if you're looking for journals and more specialist databases. Also, we've got specialist ebooks resource on there. We've got other relevant marine resources that will be useful to you. Popular websites and things that I'm going to cover later, so referencing, EndNote, which is a referencing software, help with dissertations, help with distance learners. So this is almost like a one-stop shop for you to always come through. So if we click on Find Marine Books and Journals, it says Find Books, what do I do? You need to go to Library Search. Marine ebook collections, well, I've already said some of them will be populated in the library catalogue, but this is an instance where actually you need to start searching as well here. I'm going to show novel to you very quickly, because novel is a specialist one that you would use, and it's really, really helpful. It's taken me through to Library Search. You need to remember to click View Online. Lots of people get stuck at this stage and think, where is it? So click View Online and click on it, and it'll take you through. And this is novel. It just looks like any other search engine, so you can do a normal search in there. So we could put degradation of service and pipeline in there just the same. But what might be of interest to you, which is different from other things, is this data search button. So you can actually find information about substances and properties and their chemical properties, their thermodynamics. And then you can use these tables and grids, you can export them and include them in your work and in your research, as long as you obviously reference them and acknowledge them. So just to give you example, I'm just going to put fiberglass in there. 122 results have come up. And you can see there's interactive tables and interactive graphs there for you to be able to use, to click. So you go to the top one, it's given me temperature and thermal conductivity. You can click export there, you can save them, you can change the parameters of them as well. So that might be something that you're particularly interested in. It's good to know that's there. Julia is going to go through databases tomorrow, but everything, you know, textbooks, journal articles, everything are there as well. So start with library search and then come to your library guide and then use these sections and go through to those other resources which are more specialised. If you're off campus, you can still access these. All you need to do is come through the library guide. If you type novel into Google or a Combendix, which is another database, into Google, you'll get through to it, but it won't recognise you're from Newcastle University. It'll block you. We pay a huge amount of money for these resources. So what you need to do is come through the library guide. So click it and put it on your favourites, whether it's on your phone or on your laptop, and then always come through, and it should automatically recognise you as a Newcastle student and should log you in straight away. So that's my top tip for getting on those databases. So Julia's covering these tomorrow, but what are databases? Well, there can be collections of references. They may or may not give you full text. They might just point to the literature and what's there. There are some full text ones which will give you PDFs that you can save and download and use and read. They're international, they're subject specific often, and they're incredibly expensive and very, very valuable and useful to your research. I'm not going to advise not using Google, but what I'd say is use Google or any other search engine with caution. I don't know if anyone's used Google Scholar here before. I don't know if you put your hand up. Anyone come across? So quite a few of you. If you haven't, go and check it out. Just put Google Scholar into Google and it'll come up. It basically academic references and information, and it's a good starting point if you're looking for academic information. Google has an advanced search feature, and I don't know if anybody's used that before. Often hard to find. Google hides it quite well. Sometimes it's up at the right hand side. Half the time I end up just putting Google Advanced into Google, which seems a bit silly, but it gets the results because they move it around all the time. And this starts to look more like a database of what you'd expect on advanced search. And it can be useful. So if you're looking for a file type, say you're just looking for PDFs, you can just click on PDFs and that will only search for PDFs with your search term. So you can start to refine it down. But again, just be aware that Google is not a database. What you find results for today, or even this second, will be different 5 minutes later, which will be different to the end of the day, which will be different to tomorrow. So just use Google with caution. On the slides, there's some examples. You can just type into normal Google. You don't need to go into advanced, but you could, for instance, only look for pipe engineering and academic in an academic one. So .ac.uk, put in Python engineering and then site and then .ac.uk will only bring academic websites back to you. You can, if maybe you found a piece of information, a website is really useful, and you want to find all the websites that have actually linked to that because they might be of use to you again. Again, you can use the link and then put the website. Another option is related, so you can put related. So there's an example there which will find web pages relating to international maritime. So there's lots of different techniques that you can use with Google to try and make it behave and search better for you. So I definitely have a look and have a play with those in the workshops and after the session as well. So just to sum up the search strategy bit before we move on to evaluating sources, if you've found too much, you need to apply some limits. So, you know, down the side of library search, you could refine by year and date and all sorts of different things. Combine it with the AND of the Boolean operators. Search a more specialised resource, or you might need to go back and look at your keywords and find more specific terms. If you can't find enough, you need to start truncating your words. Combine with OR. Use different search terms or search a less specialised resource. So the key to searching is to start broad and then narrow it down, and hopefully you'll get what you want. I did a similar session to this last week with some Reflex and Ream students, energy students, and they did some brilliant keywords and used Boolean operators, and they got carried away and they put them all into the search engine and the database straight away. And it was incredibly narrow, it was too narrow. So I almost had to take a step back and say, well, do some at first, just as I did with degradation and service. Put some in brackets, then add this, then add that, and just play around with it until you get what you want. It's better to start broad and then to narrow down than to go the other way. It's easier to do it that way. I'm just going to show you a bit of a hopefully humorous video to help you think about evaluating your results, because when you get your results, you might have done all of this work, got the results that you think you want, and then you start looking at them and thinking, actually, are these relevant? Are these current? Are they biased, not biased? And start realising, actually, I might need to go back a few steps and get some other information, or it might be appropriate, or you might need to weed out what you're going to use and what you aren't going to use in your topic.
When it's research time and teacher says, please quote some decent stuff. Don't give me pure opinion or regurgitated fluff. You can follow this one standard, they call it the CREP test. Just remember this short acronym and your work will turn out best. It's C-R-A-P as in guano dumble. That's C-R-A-P, it's simple, you'll admit. C is for the currency, and your source, what is the date? The answer to that question seals your academic fate. If it was written recently, then you're safe and up to date. But if it's antediluvian, then your teacher will berate you, cause that's C-R-A-P as in guano dumble. That's C-R-A-P, it's simple, you'll admit. ER's reliability, is your resource being fair? Or does it have an axe to grind, just venting some hot air? Does it always give you references so you can verify its claims? If it doesn't, then your research will crash and burn in flames, cause that's C-R-A-P as in guano dumble. That's C-R-A-P, it's simple, you'll admit. The A is for authority, does the we often overstuff? Has he a stellar reputation, or one for shopping in the buff? Where is the resource published? Was it checked or peer-reviewed? If it was written just to sell some ads, you'll likely end up screwed. 'Cause that CRAP hasn't won a number. That CRAP, it's simple, you'll admit. The P is for the point of view. Is it fact or opinion? It's nothing but the latter. Your research comes undone. If the author's an ideologue or has motives ulterior, then it's best that you dig deeper to a source superior. And that's not CRAP, hasn't won a number. That's CRAP, it's simple, you'll admit. That's CRAP.
Hopefully you won't be singing that in your head all afternoon when it gets in there. But hopefully that's just a bit of a fun way to remember some of these. It's better than just seeing it on a slide, isn't it? So you'll often see CRAAP. There's lots of different acronyms and different versions of it. But hopefully it just gives you an idea and a flavour that you just can't accept what comes out of the search engine or the database, and that you need to think critically about it. Whether it is current, you might actually need older material, and that's fine. You might not want current information for your research. It might be specific, it might be related to a specific time frame. Is it relevant? I've already mentioned that. Has it got any authority? Who has written it? Have they got credentials? Has it been checked? Is it accurate? Can you follow the sources through? Has it got any references there? Can you trace those back? And then the purpose, who's it aimed at? What's it trying to achieve? So all of these you'd apply to any kind of information, whether it was a book or a website or a thesis, anything that's out there. You need to be asking these kind of questions and evaluating what you find. So what happens if you can't find what you want? Well, there's a few processes and steps. So for books on loan, you can just place a hold or a reservation. So you just need to be logged into Library Search. You know where I logged in at the top of Library Search. And once you found the book that you want, you just next to it click reserve or hold, and then it'll be placed a reservation for you. And then you'll get an email when it's ready to collect. If you think, well, actually, there's only 10 books here and there's 150 of us, this is ridiculous. What if you put a hold on there, it'll go, and not all for 150 you put a reservation on there, and it went up. We keep a track of that, and we think, actually, we need to buy more copies of this. So that's the best way of kind of letting us know that, we need to buy more copies of something as well. You might want to request something. We can't fit all of our books into the libraries that we have. We've got a huge store. It's a really big one, bigger than some other university libraries, and we can get things to you within 24 hours, Monday to Friday. And if it's a journal article, we can scan it for you and send it through desktop delivery, so it can be there immediately for you. So just be aware of that if you see Research Reserve on Library Search. And if it's something we don't hold in terms of articles or conference papers, I don't know if you've ever used Interlibrary Loan, but it's available for you to use. In terms of undergrads, I think you get 25 a year, and postgrads you get 50 that you're allowed, and it costs £1.50 normally. If there's any extra charges, we'd let you know up front before we did it for you. And then if there's a new book that you want us to tell us about, the best way to do it is through Books on Time, and again you can access through that webpage, and you put in the details and why you want to use it, and we'll look at our resources and all the requests, and hopefully we'll be able to buy it for you. So we've gone through identifying, scoping, we've gone through planning, gone through gathering, we've gone through evaluating. So on the final straight, we're on managing information. And basically, referencing is good academic practice. There's a quote up there that says, every significant source of ideas or data should be formally acknowledged, whether you employ your own words or quote directly. So referencing is critical. Why should you reference? Not only to show what literature you read, although that's really important, but you need to be able to enable others to follow up on your references. So whether that's a supervisor marking it or if your research is being published, just as we talked about the evaluation, someone needs to check up on your sources and see if they're verifiable or they're accurate, or they simply might want to know more about that original research that you've quoted. It's also to make your own contribution clear, and that's a favourable thing. So actually, this is what I have inputted into this topic, into this area, and this is my contribution. So that makes it really clear, it makes it stand out. And obviously, it avoids plagiarism. You can plagiarise unintentionally or intentionally, and obviously there's very strict kind of disciplinary related to that. So you need to be really, really consistent and accurate with your referencing to avoid that and to avoid any kind of related things to that. So when do you have to reference? Well, it's not only when you quote someone else directly, it's if you've paraphrased somebody, or if you've summarised what they've said, or if you've copied their data, figures, tables, diagram, experiment results. It's not just about writing, it's about data, it's about images. So anything that you include in reports, in research, everything has to be acknowledged. Where has the source come from? We've got a great referencing guide that we put together, which again, if you go back to your subject guide, you can link straight off that, or it's on the main page of the library website. And I'd say make yourself familiar with that. So what do you need to include to reference? This is a very light touch, brief look at it. Firstly, you need to have an in-text citation. So this is the point where you actually, in a body of your text, acknowledge your source at the point where you've quoted it, or you've summarised it, or you've paraphrased it. I don't know what styles you're using. Different supervisors might require different things. If it's Harvard style, which is the most commonly used one here at Newcastle, Harvard at Newcastle, you'd require the author and the year if you were doing it in the body of the text. If you're numbered style, you'd have the author and a number next to it. And if you're quoting directly, you need to include page numbers. So again, the reader of your work can go straight to the resource and find where it was said. And at the end of your essay or research or topic, or whatever you're doing, you need a reference list. And a reference list is different from a bibliography. A bibliography is something that you've, it contains all the sources that you've read around the subject. A reference list is all the references that you've actually referenced in your text, in your report, in your research. If it's Harvard, it'd be alphabetical, and if it's a numbered style, it'll be in numerical order. And just a quick point about web pages, you need to always include the URL, so how the address for it. And you need to include the access date, because obviously web pages change on a daily basis often. So the reader of your text, your research, needs to be able to go back and maybe even find the archived version of that web page to check where you've got it from, because it changes all the time. So where can you get help? Well, firstly, check with your supervisor what's required of you, which style should be using, and that's really important. I've already mentioned the referencing guide, and that's got some great hints and tips on there. We've put it together for you. We've recently changed it and updated it on some feedback from a student, so hopefully it's much more easy to read. There's lots of information now on Harvard at Newcastle, because that's the most used style over the university. So if you are required to use that style, I would definitely go there. And there's also a book called Cite Them Right Online. There's a book version which we've got copies in the library, and we pay for the online version, and it's absolutely brilliant. If you don't do anything else, just go to this web page. But to get to it, again, make sure you go through the referencing guide, because like anything else, any of our resources, because we've paid for it, you'll only be able to access it off-site if you go through the guide. So we click on Cite Them Right. I don't know if anyone's used this before, but basically if you're unsure how to cite anything, you can either go along the top and look at the drop-down versions of the panels along the top, or you could type something in. So say I was unsure how to cite conference proceedings. Type it in. You can filter your results to what style that you actually want. And you can see there's lots of different types of conference proceedings. Say I'm going to pick full conference proceedings, and it does all the hard work for you. You can pick your style, and it tells you exactly what's the in-text citation and what it looks like at the end. So it just takes all that hard work away from you. But it also means at the other end, there's no excuse for not referencing right, because it's all there for you. So that's another go-to resource I'd definitely say check out at the end, and you'll have a chance to look through it in the workshops. Has anyone here used EndNote before? Put your hand up if you have. Does anyone know what it is? Few mummerings. Basically, EndNote's a bibliographic reference tool. I don't know if you've used anything else like RefMe or Mendeley. There's some other options. EndNote is paid for by the university, so it's on every campus PC, and it's there for you to access. You don't have to use it. It's there in case you want to use it. You can, basically what it does, it's bibliographic management software. So it means that instead of keeping your references on a Word document or on cards or in scrappy bits of your notebook, that it actually keeps everything in one place. My husband, who did a PhD, found out the hard way that after 10 years he hadn't recorded all these references properly, he hadn't used something like this, and it took him about 4 months seriously to bring through all these references, and it was just a nightmare. He couldn't find everything. But the beauty of something like EndNote is that it keeps everything in one place. You can manually enter them, or like a database or library search, you can actually, or even Google Scholar, you can export the record directly, and it puts it into the library, and it creates a citation for you. You don't have to do any work at all. It literally transfers it. You set it at your style, at your preferred style, and it puts it in for you and automatically can cite for you. You can sort and organise and search in there, so you can have groups. So say you were doing a big project and you wanted a literature review, you want to keep all your sources together for your literature review, your chapter 1 of your dissertation, chapter 2, your results, and you wanted to group all your references together, you could do that. You could have different modules down the side in groups and put in your references for your modules. It's up to you how you use it. But you can search and organise and put keyword searches in to bring things up. And you can attach PDFs to it. So instead of having your PDF stay stored on your hard drive or on your H drive on the PCs, you can have your reference and you can attach the PDF. You can highlight the PDF, you can put sticky notes on it so it becomes integrated. And you can attach other things, so you can attach figures and diagrams, and again, it keeps it all with the reference and it keeps it linked, so you can then track it really easily. At a few clicks of a button, you can create a bibliography and automatically does it for you. And if the magic happens when you're actually writing in a Word document, you need to put an in-text citation. And a few clicks of a button, it brings it in, and it brings it in the style that you want as well. And you can access it on and off campus. So once you set up your desktop version, then you get a huge capacity, right, as a Newcastle student, as a great big storage information. You get Harvard at Newcastle and other kind of things as well. And then it means that you can set up an online one, which means that you can use it anywhere, anytime. You can also access the desktop version through the remote application service as well. You can buy it if you want to really do that. It's £70 an educational discount, but I would suggest if you want to do it, try it out first before you buy it. We've got lots of support with EndNote. The library supports it across the campus. So there's a guide, and I'd say again go to the guide, and again it's linked from your subject guide, or you can access it through the library's main webpage. And it's actually got a teach yourself EndNote session, so it's got a recap of one of our sessions. It's got workbooks on there. We've got a helpline that myself and a few other staff man, so if you've got an issue with EndNote, we'll try and support you with that. And we have workshops running up till December. So if it's something that you think, oh, I might be interested in it, now's the time to do it. You wouldn't start looking at EndNote, I would say, the week before your project's due or your dissertation's due, because it's just too, it's too much. At that point, don't use it. But if you are interested in using it, maybe you've got time to come to a workshop. They're all published on our EndNote guides. If you go to the guide, you'll see when the workshops are coming up. We've got one on Thursday, the 6th of October. That's not fully booked at the moment, so if you want to take that up, then the option is there. But again, it's not compulsory, it's just another tool that you can use and help you in your research. And it doesn't always go right, it's like any other tool. There's always hiccups. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever, but it's definitely one tool that you can use, like any tool out there. And just to round up, just to summarise what I've been doing today, there's a whole section on the library website called The Informed Learner, and that has interactive videos and activities that you can use, which basically goes through what I've been talking about today, so you can refresh your memory. And again, linked on your guide, on your subject guide, something called a dissertation station, which helps you with literature review, keeping track of research. So a lot of what Julia's going to go over tomorrow will also be on there. And maybe the most important thing is we're here to help. It's a lot to take in, especially when you're not actually doing it, because often you get the questions when you're literally starting your research and think, I can't remember how to do that, or help me with that, and that's why we're here. So you can give us an email, you can text us. We've got 24/7 chat as well, so we'll try and answer all your questions that way. Has anyone got any questions now that I can help with at all? No? Well, if you think of anything, Julia's here with you tomorrow, and at your workshop as well, you'll be able to go through it, and I hope it's been helpful. Thank you. Hi there. Thanks. That wasn't when I came the mic was switched on. I had to switch that mic on there and I was picking it up. So it depends how much you want to walk around. So, no problem. Thanks.
I actually didn't feel good today, so I really didn't attend this lecture.
Okay.
I was sitting, but it's the same lecture repeated.
No, it's a different lecture tomorrow.
Okay.
So, but all the lecture slides will be going on Blackboard from today. So, yeah. So tomorrow's different, so it adds on to what I said today. But yeah, if you you take things in for whatever reason today, then you'll get the slides on Blackboard. And the workshops that you'll do this week.
Hello.
What would you like?
And you'll get
We would like one box there.
What would you like? One vintage here.
Yes, please. Can we have one box there?
Is it also on my?
Or do you want them both?
Is it also on my timetable?
Yeah, it might be easier to please them with the boat and all that.
Yeah.
So many friends are going to a different one. It's just the same one. It's just we can't anticipate everybody.
So there is the same lecture repeated.
Thanks. See ya.
So this one's different from tomorrow. You need to come to both of them. Yes. And then the workshop is to practice what you've learned and listen to today and tomorrow. But if you see which workshop's yours, but you've got a friend doing a different workshop, don't panic. It's the same workshop. It's just there's too many of you to do a workshop together.
Okay. Only workshop has like both two classes, same thing repeated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the lectures you need to come to both to. One workshop, okay? So the one that you've been thinking about. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Or being recorded. It's okay.
Yeah, the only thing, actually, sorry, there's one slide that got mangled a little bit from the editing going across the other. Which one was it? It was one
Guys, you need to pick up a family study assignment guidance. And you need, this is a scanning as well, so might as well get yours done while there's nobody else here.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's scan us in if we're early.
You can,
I was going to say, it doesn't always scan if we're early. Yeah.
oh, okay.
We'll get marked after that, absolutely. Yeah.
Let me see.
It will scan, but it won't necessarily register that I'm here. Or it might just not scan.
Right. Shall we leave?
Yeah.
You can only take one assignment guidance for yourself, thanks.
Can you get one for me?
That's exactly what you said.
Yeah, but we'll let you off. We'll let you off. Are you alright?
Yeah, that's fine. It just
You're
got
fine.
off the bottom of the slide. I noticed the other day.
Let me see if my links still work. This has to check that because she didn't check it. Checked it 2 days ago. The site was accessing feedbacks because it was going
Oh my goodness, really?
Can you imagine putting up a slide that says access denied because of terrorist activity?
Don't come get a copy of the assignment guidance, please. One each. Don't take any for friends or family or anybody else who might want a copy.
Hi, if you can come and take an assignment guidance, only take one for yourself. Don't pick up any for anybody else. Cheers. You can only take an assignment guidance for yourself. You can't pick them up for them. They are an assignment thing, and this is us giving them to you personally.
I've just got it on a memory stick.